Good evening and welcome to 1010 News, your top 10 news in 10 minutes. I'm Andy Hong. Before we get into this week's news, I just wanted to remind all our viewers that even if you may have been disappointed or dejected by some of the early college results and standardized test scores, remember that no matter how much society tries to quantify you, you're still a valuable human being that won't be found anywhere else in the universe. Now that we're done with sentimentalities, but before we get into what we plan to cover today, a 47-year-old woman was struck and killed by a car outside Irvine's Arnold O. Beckman High School on Wednesday morning. After the impact, the car continued through a chain-link fence and ended up on school property. Police believe the woman, identified as Owen Tran, was on the sidewalk at the intersection of Bryan Avenue and Rubicon when she was hit at about 11 a.m. The Irvine man driving the car was found semi-conscious 15 to 20 feet from the vehicle, said Orange County Fire Authority Captain Steve Concialdi. The driver suffered serious injuries and was taken to a local hospital. Now back to the planned program. If you would just look out the window right now, or as a matter of fact, recall your day, you'll probably be able to notice that it rained today. Yes, today, California was hit with its fiercest storm in the past 5 years. The rain began to hit NorCal late Wednesday and only just got to SoCal today. Los Angeles County officials have taken proper responses to possible mudslides and drainpipe overflows, as the pipes running under LA are poorly kept and extremely old. Sacramento had expected high winds of 60 miles per hour. More details of property damage will be revealed, and I hope that most people made it safely and had a chance to enjoy the rain. However, the entire nation has been engulfed in a storm of protests as millions across America took to the streets to protest the grand jury decision not to indict the police officer who killed Eric Garner through a chokehold when Garner protested arrest. By combining the Garner case with the case of the shooting death of Michael Brown in Ferguson by a policeman, the protests took a broader rallying call of anti-police brutality and anti-racial profiling by police officers. In New York City, where the movement is highly prominent, thousands have held die-ins at public places to raise awareness. The movement gained so much momentum that it went international. On Wednesday, 600 people gathered in a London shopping center to hold a die-in, and 76 were arrested when, according to the BBC, a breakaway group assaulted security staff and damaged property. Another big issue controversy this past week was the release of a 6,000-page-long Senate report on the Central Intelligence Agency's use of torture to gain information. Senator Dianne Feinstein was at the tip of the spear when she thrust the report out into the public, which outlined regular uses of forced rectal feeding, forced sleep deprivation, making people stand with broken limbs, and threats on family members. There were different responses to the report. The Islamic militants in the Middle East vowed further violence to retaliate. The general intelligence community, the CIA in particular, defended the use of torture by linking it to revealing many terrorist plots, a claim that Senator Feinstein strongly disputes. Government officials also noted that the report is unilateral. The report was mostly only supported by Democrats. Again, things just naturally divide into party lines. Let the blame games begin. And it's that time of the year again. Not the holidays, mind you. It's another time for a last-minute fix to prevent the government shutdown. Yesterday, the House of Representatives passed a $1.1 trillion spending bill to keep the government running for the next year. The vote was still close, 219 in favor and 206 against, with 162 of those in favor being Republicans and the other 57 being Democrats. Although there were many unhappy with the spending bill, the White House, seeing that the deadline for the government shutdown was unsettlingly close, released a statement urging the passage of the bill. Senate Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi was perhaps the most outright outraged that the White House is yielding to Congress, but had this bill not been passed, then the government would have been shut down again. It's sad that these kinds of events don't even make headlines now because they're so commonplace. Another bill that passed and is also stirring up some controversy is the Michigan Religious Freedom Restoration Act. The act, passed by the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, according to CBS, tells people that they don't have to do an act that might go against their sincerely held beliefs. For example, a Christian doctor can refuse service to a man because of his homosexuality. Many have expressed worries of this act being an excuse for legalized discrimination and is being a heated subject of debate in the Michigan State Legislature. And I know that one of our tech guys, Steven, certainly can't get the smile off his face when he drives to the pump these days because the oil prices dropped below $60 per barrel for the first time in 5 years. This is largely due to a continuation of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries' decision to continue producing oil while American domestic oil production is at an all-time high. This is great news for drivers nationwide, but a troublesome news to environmentalists as people burn more gas while the exceedingly harmful hydraulic fracturing technique for extracting natural gas is being more widely used to keep up with domestic demand. And if a person doesn't want to partake of the petroleum feast that's going on these days, he or she can use Uber, a form of call taxi style carpooling by ordinary people nearby. The system has been hailed as revolutionary, but is now taking fire from numerous cases of sexual assault. A rape case tied to Uber in New Delhi, India, has caused the city to ban the system altogether. Also, different allegations of sexual harassment have been surfacing in Chicago, Portland, London, and various cities in California. Making matters worse, the executives at the company were terrible at handling the media attention for these problems, leading to the formation of several boycott movements. Also, the CEO of SeaWorld, after defending the franchise from negative publicity for years, has stepped down from his position ever since the release of the documentary Blackfish, which details the cruelty with which SeaWorld deals with its killer whales and the misinformation spread by the company. The public generally turned away from the franchise. I have a friend who worked at SeaWorld part-time to deal with seals and sea lions, and he had nothing but praises to say about the franchise's widespread and effective rescue operations of endangered species. I really want to believe that SeaWorld is at the forefront of human awareness and marine ecology, but from the evidence that we have of the egregious mishandling of orcas, it's impossible to say that the entire franchise should be forgiven for the other things that it has achieved. And even though the winter storms have been hitting the East Coast, have made most people stay in their homes with their coffee, historians had a once-in-a-lifetime thrill the State House, and the historians were delighted to find that the capsule dated back to 1795, most likely placed there by a group of revolutionaries that included Paul Revere and Samuel Adams. The contents are still being filtered and scanned and will unfortunately not be displayed to the general public until the scanning and cleaning phase is complete. And what's winter without snowballs? This week's science news involves exactly that: a giant, dusty, cosmic snowball, otherwise known as Comet, named 67P, that would have otherwise spent eternities by its lonesome if not for its two new companions from the European Space Agency, Rosetta and Philae. The Rosetta spacecraft once again confirmed the widely held belief that comets hold large quantities of water. By taking samples of the water streaming off the comet, the data that was yielded from the results has surprising results. The water in 67P held 3 times more deuterium than Earth, which is a hydrogen isotope with 1 more neutron. This discovery, however, overturned the widely held belief that the Earth's water came from a comet impact. Instead, according to Professor Dr. Catherine Altwick's announcement on the New Scientist magazine, the Earth's water probably was a result of a wide range of factors, comet collisions included. Also, there has been an awakening. Have you felt it? That's right, the NASA probe New Horizons, which is basically a modern follow-up to Voyager missions bound to Pluto, successfully awoke from hibernation last week. Let's keep these discoveries coming. And that was this week's Top 10 News of the Week. I'm Andy Hong. Remember to check us out on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll be back with more of your Top 10 News in 10 minutes. Stay educated.